What's it doing?
Ooh. Just tapping your toe.
Did that last meeting a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there any solution that I guess it came out all on its own?
It's not, still.
Mary's is doing the same thing, but.
Huh.
Google, hers is all over the place.
Like Barrett's, isn't
There's is yours. Everything's plugged in tiny.
Yeah.
And everything we're doing because she doesn't have a video.
Then none of these are loose.
Actually, now it's jumping over to, when this is Mary Bowl is showing the select board there. Jumping back and forth.
And do we have a way to reset? Do we think it's the meeting hour, maybe?
There's always the power down option.
Yeah,
You want to circle button.
there we go.
But this. Like it's doing something.
Oh, whatever.
Oh,
Just
stand there.
It's not.
Well done. Well done.
Now we've got a lower screen and a panoramic screen above it.
I think that's because they have the video turned on. Now we know.
All right.
It happens.
To the very top, it's panoramic.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Bunch of split screens.
I think if you go speaker view, it'll.
Do speaker?
Oh.
Do you want that?
No.
No. Gallery? Gallery is everybody equal. I think we would normally do speaker because we're the ones who are normally speaking, and then it would go to
Whoever's speaking.
whoever's speaking would be.
Do you want
speaker? Try speaker.
It's the bigger.
What is immersive?
Let's try more.
No, whatever that is, we don't want it. I don't think we want to be immersed in this. Now, when you drop down right there, Laura, click that one. No, that's not a good one either.
Huh.
It's usually the split in two, and then the
Right.
speakers are at the bottom.
Is
and
there
then
a
you see
different
the whole
setting
screen
on
across
that?
the
When you're
top.
twisting that around, pushing buttons, is there a different setting on that meeting?
Oh,
house?
the only one I pushed was the power one.
I was wondering. what else.
I've been holding it, yeah, something that.
Bear with us while we get this figured out, everyone.
We're all super tech savvy. Actually, we're pretty good at this stuff. I don't think it's Peter jumping.
Well, at least it's not jumping around, right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right,
Any select persons does it take to turn on a Zoom meeting?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was saying, how many select persons does it take to turn on a Zoom meeting?
Several.
Five and a few from the audience.
Oh, boy.
It looks
All
like
right.
it looks like from here, it's working the way it's supposed to work.
Right now it is. We won't
We'll just call it good.
touch anything else. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order at 6:35 and we'll do pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will now open nominations from the floor.
I'd like to nominate Dan for chair.
I had two people speaking,
I'm sorry.
so I have the floor open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Dan for select board chair.
I would like to nominate Barbara Allen for board chair.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor, so that has to be discussed first. And then we would, if that doesn't pass, we would open for a second nomination.
Are there further nominations for chair?
We do, there's a nomination and then there's a second already on the floor. So now we discuss that one.
Okay, I was using Robert's rules, so.
Go ahead. I think they all get discussed and then we vote according to Robert rules.
Okay,
So
we have two nominations on the floor, Dan Newman and Barbara Allen. So it's open for discussion.
Is there a second on the second one?
Did we have a second on Barbara?
I'll second myself.
Okay. All right, so we have two names put forward. Is there any discussion before we vote?
I have a question, if I may. With the role of the chair, it seems like it has a lot of responsibilities and so on. So I guess I would want to know a little bit more about if there's a vice role, what's the expectation of that over time? The vice chair role. So anybody who can help just explain that.
As the current vice chair, I can speak to that. It just, that my duties have been somewhat limited to opening the meeting, running the meeting, if the chair is delayed. So that's mainly what I'm doing.
my expectation, I know, and actually Ricky last year said, sort of the expectation is we rotate through board chairs, through our time. Vice chair is really training or in training, for lack of a better word, for the chair. And I was nominating Barbara to go, as she's been the vice chair. Dan has been chair and he's busy. It's nothing about, nothing personal. It's just, he's busy. He's got legislature. There are a lot of other responsibilities that this is a time to rotate that opportunity around. So for that reason, I was voting Barbara to, step in to rotate through.
And I was actually thinking, it takes a full 2 years to kind of get up to speed on the board. And usually once you have a third year under your belt, and that's where we start stepping into the chair role. That's the only reason I asked Dan if he would consider it, knowing that he's busy. And he said that, yes, he would. So
Turns out 3 years, so there's no guarantee of another term.
I'll vote for you, girl.
That's not the only
But
question.
clearly after Pittston, I will not
That's
be
not-
actively campaigning for you, because then they will remove you from their select board. That's not.
The other question I had was, Dan, how do you feel about being chair in light of all other duties you have going on? It's.
I mean, I'm busy.
Sure.
I mean, I'm willing to do it one more time. I don't think after this year, I don't think it's gonna be fair again. I'm not running for select board again after 3 years, so this is yeah, for me, so either way.
Is there any further discussion? So I'll call for a vote for the first name. All those in favor of Dan Newman as chair, say aye.
I. We normally raise our hands.
Okay, or raise your hands. Okay, all those opposed?
Aye.
All right, so it does not pass with a majority, so we'll move to the second candidate, Barbara Allen as chair. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? One, okay, so the candidate Barbara Allen passes as chair, and I will turn the meeting over to Barbara.
A wonderful meeting, because Melanie's always been here. Thank you. I was doing some research the last few days and I found something in the MMA Municipal Officers Manual that I thought was very interesting. It's the very first appendix in the book. And it is the Belgrade Board of Select Persons Welcome. And this was from when Dan and Melanie and Ricky were all on board with Chris Merrow and Bruce Ford. And there's this lovely welcome. And I don't know if you read this regularly at the time, but I just thought it would be nice to start out. On behalf of the board, I wish to welcome you to our meeting. We appreciate visitors from the public and trust your attendance will be beneficial to all of us. We feel it is very important for interested persons to know about the functions of our town government and for us to be aware of what is important to the community. You're invited to participate in the meeting in accordance with the policy and rules established by the board. So I don't know if you read that at every opening, but
We used to.
I just thought it was nice.
Actually, I wrote that. And they asked permission to put it in the MMA book.
You did a good job, Mary.
Thank you. I don't mean to brag, but I did write it.
You, Mary.
All right. So the first order of business. Now we have a review of the minutes and that comes before.
No,
You have to elect the vice chair.
yeah, vice chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, need to rely on experience here. So I'd like to call for nominations for vice chair. I will nominate Carol Johnson as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Any further nominations?
I'll nominate Dan Newman as vice chair.
Second nomination for me.
Can I second that?
You can.
They actually, nominations don't actually have to be seconded according to Robert's rules of order. But we can.
Sure, I will second that.
Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, I'd like to call a vote for the first candidate, Carol Johnson. All those in favor
Vice.
for vice chair? Seeing 4 votes. Any opposition? Any other votes against? No? Okay, just stay. Okay. Okay, 4 votes for Carol Johnson. Carol is the new vice chair of the board.
Okay,
Wasn't there a second on the floor as well? There was also a nomination for Dan.
For Dan.
You don't want it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've already got 4 votes, so I mean, it's.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
We're
You're
good.
good, you're good. Okay, you're off the hook this year. So I'd like to call for a review of the minutes of March 7th meeting. And is this a standard order? Don't you want to be approved the minutes after the?
We usually do the minutes first because it's first part of the meeting, because we have to approve the last minute's minutes before you get to any business from the new meeting. Make a motion. to approve the minutes.
Does anyone have any comments on the minutes from March 7th?
the only comment I had is down on the bottom of page 1 on the vote to increase the tax levy. Was that 3-1 or was that a 4-0 vote?
It was 3-1.
It was 3-1?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I didn't realize that.
Well, and actually, on page 4 under the water system, the note here about Dwight Deli is still waiting for confirmation from the board. And I feel like that was done. That was done in February and then again in March. So when that's what we talked about, was that we'd already said move forward. And then followed up with, okay, so as I said on the 14th of February, go ahead. move
Yeah.
forward.
We are,
So that was already accomplished.
but I think didn't he email again and ask?
He did.
Yeah.
He did, but that was when, at least Melanie and I responded. I don't know if everybody.
Oh, maybe
Well,
I
I
didn't
don't
have-
think we had enough
Oh,
of you
okay,
to
they
respond.
responded.
All right, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
All in favor? Any further? We need to call for any further discussion or not? Just all in favor? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes? No.
I will abstain.
You'll abstain because you don't know. Now we have time for public comments. Anyone who would like to bring some matter to the board that's not on the agenda tonight.
I just, one thing, and I don't know if you guys want it public or what, it's just some things I heard at town meeting, about the annual report.
Well, actually, we've got a town meeting coming up in this one.
Okay.
Any
I
concerns
don't have
or
agenda, so.
questions? Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay, so,
I think Marvin can, if anybody else wants. Oh, Sarah wants to go.
I just have a quick comment. Just want to let you know that the last school board meeting, there was a presentation of the items that are expenses and covered under the additional local funds. I was not present at that meeting, but I will make sure that that information somehow gets to the board. I don't know if you guys were interested in that list. And then also I've been actually had forward and we forward an additional document that encompasses the information for the budget. So again, we're gonna have a presentation in 2 weeks or so here. So I have a PDF with all of that information. So that's what I want to bring into the board.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
welcome home.
Oh, thanks.
Are there any other matters for public comment? And those attending remotely or here? No? All right. So let's move on to old business. And starting with the ARPA funds and disbursement.
The dam disbursement.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Another
does.
dam disbursement. Questions or, I know we have the 48,000 for, which is the balance of the 71,000 for the Belgrade's pro rata share of the 2023 budget distribution.
And the 48,000 is specifically for the dam repair.
Yes,
So I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the expenditure of 48,000 from Belgrade's share of the American Rescue Plan Associate appropriation funds to go to the Belgrade Lakes Dams Committee for the repair of the
Yeah.
dam.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I think it's a perfect example of what I understand those ARPA funds were for. You know, one-time infrastructure or things that you're not gonna budget for. We don't have to tax the town for that 48,000. So it seems like sort of a perfect place to spend some of that money. So I would encourage everyone to vote for it.
yeah, I mean, it's classic definition. A municipal dam is classic definition of infrastructure.
Right,
So, when I went to Army Corps of Engineers and came up dry,
yeah,
and they said it was a private dam, and they were just hung up on that. Despite saying, it's a municipal dam, and here's all the.
because it was originally built as a private
No,
dam.
they just, the first person that responded said it was a private dam. And then I responded, answered that and never went anywhere else. But Scott Ferguson did say that, George Jabbar did say that they're all in support of it. You should have been here in October or September when they first processed the grants. But they did say that there's $1 million grant out there right now that they have not got all their paperwork in on. So if that defaults, there will be some money for us. And there's also another one for $300 and something thousand that if that defaults because they haven't got their paperwork in, we'll have some money for you. But we have to plan on the worst,
Right.
hope for the best, but plan on the worst. Yeah, it is.
Did you put paperwork in for it so that you have paperwork in case it defaults?
Yeah,
Okay, just want to make sure, 'cause
yeah,
I'd love to have it default and I'll send it that money and then we can put this back in the pot.
So
absolutely.
right for something else. That would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
wonderful.
and all the towns would, yeah. But I was in front of them, the paperwork was in, after the last 2 months, but I was in front of the commissioners 2 weeks ago. And, they were all in favor, but
And that's the county ARPA. money,
that's
right?
county,
Okay,
yep.
like that.
And I also got in front of, DOT, it's under their jurisdiction, although it's assault from the roads that really did a number on it. And I also went to, Congressman, Golden's office.
Mhm.
And they exhausted all the federal funds and then they put me into recreation and some other department and I explored that to no avail. So I went down every little rabbit hole that everyone suggested.
As I told you Saturday, you literally have the patience of a saint.
Yeah, well, it's also an education. I don't know how you guys do it. You know? It's a thankless job, but anyways, we tried, so. When it's not totally dead with the county, but we got a plan for the.
Yeah, because you gotta have something in place so that you can move forward
Yeah,
with that.
and I did contact, Knowles, Engineering, and to get them to put us on the calendar for late spring, early summer, once we get rid of all the water.
I was gonna say, do we know, do they have a tentative date for us or?
No, they said it would just take 2 weeks.
Oh.
Last fall, they said it would take 2 weeks and, sometime in the summer when the water's,
Sort of stable.
yeah, so, and we'll have a cofferdam, so we won't lose a drop.
Right.
And we're into another drought as of today. I just looked at the long-term forecast. Another 26% precip from now until June, and then it's 16% reduction in precip from what's normal. But that's exact same as the last 3 years. And of course, last summer we had a little bit more rain than what was forecasted, so. But anyways, we'll do it, probably June-ish. So-
And is DOT gonna look at their road during that time? Isn't there
No, they
some
already
concern
did.
about the road?
They already did, because I told them, I sent them video that they didn't look at. But showing, we had, commercial divers down there with the dye, showing where it was going underneath their bridge and coming out underneath our spillway.
Mhm.
And they said, no, and they had 2 divers down there when I was down there. DOT did, and they said, no, we didn't see it, but. You know, there are 2 holes about the size of a basketball that if you put your foot in, you wouldn't get the foot out. The suction was that much.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but they said, no, we didn't see that.
Dick, can I ask just an offhand question? At what point, considering that, was it 1987 that they first set the levels that our dams need to be at?
80,
Okay,
yeah.
and then at what point in time will they start reconsidering what levels those dams need to be at, considering that we consistently don't have winters like we did in 1980? We don't have back in the spring runoff.
I guess, it's going to take 1 or 2 stakeholders, whether it be IFNW or a town, to say that these aren't, we have to update our protocols. When I said 1980, that's when DEP came up with it, when CMP still had the dams. It was in 86 and 87 that they divested themselves of the dams. But the order, water level order goes back to 1980. And then we started the interlocal dams committee in 86, 87. So right now, it's been fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, type of thing. We're following the winter, storage levels, which is, great and long ponds have to be maintained between 18 and 24 inches. And we're keeping them right around 18, so we're keeping water. Because 2 years ago, we got cut short a little bit. We expected more rain or runoff. We didn't get it, so it's like, oh, we're scrambling, but by Memorial Day, we lucked out. So we're not, we're going to err on keeping some more water. And it's like DEP says you can go from full pond 1 inch above, that's all you can do, but the last 5 years, we've been going 3 inches above. Because at 3 inches, nobody's complaining, we're not floating off anyone's dock, we're not floating any natural new nests. So nobody has a problem with it. So we're stretching DEP order, but no one's complaining, so.
Because they were complaining a handful of years back when it was the opposite.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're, everyone's diligent about it, so,
Yeah, you guys do a fantastic
yeah.
job. I know it's kind of thankless, so.
Yeah, but
thank
it's,
you.
communication is, as you know, it's key.
And the fact that it's an interlocal with multiple towns.
Yeah, and now, meeting tomorrow night with, this water rush,
Lake Trust.
Lake Trust, thank you. Because East Pond and North Pond are concerned about their dams and the fact that they flow into our lakes that we control. And they're saying, well, what about, do we come into your, and I said, absolutely, come on in and let's see where it all goes. So I'm gonna sit down with them and they're having a lot of, left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And one person says, well, we want the water a little higher, but another person says, we want to flush out all of that stuff. We have rain coming, so let's flush it out.
Into Great Pond.
Yeah, it's a great pond, it gives great ponds and nice green water,
Yeah, right.
but that does, the phosphorus is in the water column, you're just not gonna skim it off the top. So, but anyways, we're all working together.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, right?
Yes.
Is there any more discussion? So all those in favor of approving the 48,000 of ARPA money for the dam repair? All in favor?
Yes.
Because when you do have to call them.
Oh, because we're in-
Yeah, because we have the remote, so
Okay.
you have to do that.
Peter?
In favor, yes.
Yes. Melanie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. So 5 yeses. So thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on that.
We have had, at Belgrade's town meeting, we did have unanimous support for it. Not Belgrade, this is Belgrade, excuse me, Rome. So they're all set. So I understand all the other towns are. It's all been approved by the budget committees.
Yes. Doesn't feel like that many years ago, it wasn't the way.
Oh, I
But
know.
It's nice to see them finally and having North Pond come into,
Yeah,
because we reached out like 10 years ago and only one person showed up.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is a big, big spend this year. We finished the Wings Mill Dam 2 years ago. That was 155,000. We finished, Salmon's Dam last summer for 23,000. And this is great. And we should be going back to a normal 20,000. Distributed amongst 5 towns, so.
Yeah.
And the Belgrade Stream one's in good shape, right?
But,
Belgrade Stream's in good shape.
Yeah, we just did the Wings Mills.
yeah, 2 years ago we finished, and that's good for 15 years now, because it's all, pressure treated in cedar and all stainless steel hardware, every bolt. It's all, even the long legs, a long leg is $23 for one bolt. But it's all stainless steel, where we had a lot of rot before. From the bleaching out of the steel.
Yep.
Anyways, I thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we moved on to the next item, which is water district trustees, I realized that while I read the welcome from, that Mary wrote so well, I didn't do an official welcome to Peter Rushton, our new select board member.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to introduce Peter and, thank you for joining the board, and we're delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to water district trustees. So, we have 3 trustees that need to be appointed. We have one person who has expressed interest, but hasn't actually filled out an application. So I don't think that we can approve him at this time, but he seems as if he's eminently qualified. And, you know, I'd love to have him, I would love to have him come before the board about his release meetings. Have we had anyone else express interest? None. And what is the timeline for?
I think you'll want to do it. As soon as you can, or, I mean, it's not an emergency, but per the agreement that you signed, that would be the next step for the.
Well, it would indicate to the state that we're moving forward. on
Yes,
that.
correct.
Now, the next publication of the town, the newsletter won't come out until the summer.
Yeah.
So we can put it in the summer newsletter. We could put it on the website and marquee, see if that generates any interest. Just spread the word around that, we could have 2 members of the select board can be on it. So I don't know if anybody wants to take that on. as
And
well.
that may have to happen sooner than later. You can always resign and appoint somebody else.
Right,
We may have to do that just to get this going.
right, that's what I was saying. First,
So there's nobody stepped up yet?
One
one person. who's-
But we,
who's new to
but we,
town.
no, they haven't officially sent in it yet.
Right, he's expressed interest to Lorna and he seems very highly qualified.
Does anyone know of anyone that
Well,
might not be aware of it?
I'll probably put in if nobody else has, that's kind of wait for somebody else to do it.
Thank you.
Mac, you want to be on a trustee for the water district?
Like you're never home.
I was just thinking, just speak down Mary and tell her that.
All right, so we can't take any action at this time. But try to spread the word and just know that if by whatever deadline we set for ourselves, one or more of us may have to step forward, at least temporarily.
But he can fill out the application so we can act on it next. time.
Yes, yes.
So,
And he's just moving up, and someone who's just moving into town.
He is new to town, yes.
good for him.
Yeah, that's right. The next item of old business is the fire department land search letter. So I'll read the letter. This is written as if it's to Carol Johnson, even though I don't think she owns property that would be considered, right, Carol?
No, I'm sort of in shoreline zoning.
So this is as I understand it, this is the letter that would be going out to property owners in the depot area to see if anyone might be interested in selling land that could be used as a fire station. So this is the letter. Dear Carol, on behalf of the Belgrade Fire Department and the town of Belgrade, I'm reaching out to landowners in hope of finding land to construct a new fire station in the Belgrade Depot area. There are multiple reasons we are exploring options for a new station. The existing station has no running water or bathroom. The trucks must be pulled out to be able to open compartments and perform truck and equipment checks. And there is no office space for our on-duty personnel. Currently, the firefighter/EMT is primarily stationed at the Belgrade Lake Station, resulting in a longer travel time to North Belgrade. Having a rescue truck stationed at the depot area would provide faster response times. You may have read recent articles about the lack of volunteer firefighters in our area. In the future, this shortage will require more full-time personnel. The new station will be designed to accommodate these needs and allow for the possibility for expansion in future years. The town has established a building committee, which includes firefighters, a select board member, the town manager, and a resident. The committee has been meeting once a month and has developed a preliminary plan. The building will provide space for the fire and rescue trucks, specialized equipment, meeting room and offices, a kitchen, bathrooms, as well as future sleeping quarters. We are looking for a lot size of approximately 2 to 3 acres with good access to a main road. If you might be interested in selling your property, please contact me. The committee will review the properties and choose a location that best meets the needs of our town. Thank you very much for your consideration. Sincerely, Dan McKenzie, Belgrade Fire Chief. So does anybody have any suggestions or edits to this letter?
The first line just seems, I'm reaching out to landowners and I kind of was like, in the hope of finding land. Or in hopes of finding land.
We can say in the hope.
Like it just reads a little bit wonky there.
And they do have, I think there were 15 names, I think, in that list that identified that aren't in shoreline zoning and that we think might be a possibility. So my name's only on here, so it's spaced and somebody can go in very quickly fertilize that.
We got
So,
some properties that people have come forward, we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
One of them's pretty close to shoreline zoning, so.
so this at least will get it
When
out.
it's close, sorry, when it's close to shoreline zone.
Yeah.
Is this the letterhead that Dan McKenzie provided? Because the fire department has their own letterhead that's
Yeah, this is what he provided.
really.
Yeah.
We used to have a lot different letterhead. It was a lot. Maltese was a lot better than that.
That may be because it's been photocopied, so many times. Travis to build
No, he
that.
sent it actually, I blew up the emblem because the emblem was tiny, tiny.
Yeah, because what will go out will be a red and white emblem in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's red, it is red.
so,
How many acres is that piece of land we own down by Gagny's? That really kind of useless land. Remember we talked about putting up the communications tower on it back years ago?
where is the property? Is it on 27?
Yeah, it's across from Gagny's. There's a lot of wetlands out behind there, but I thought there was a high spot in there, and I just don't know how much of that's been shoreline zoning or wetlands or whatever too.
If Lorna can find that deed and send it to, email it to Dan so we can look at it.
Yeah, he's
We
meeting
should be
tomorrow night.
on that here to find out what's in the area that's.
Yeah, we looked at another one down there and it's. Unfortunately, the bog is considered shoreline zoning too, so,
Yeah,
I mean, it counts.
Yeah, and
And
that's
you
what
know,
I'm saying.
not right on the
It may
water.
not be big enough, but I haven't been driving by there the other day. What did we ever decided to do with that piece of land? Because we had one over there we talked about when we were talking about the tower up here.
Right,
We also said we could put that one out as a possibility.
yeah, and I don't remember how big that piece is.
And how did
It's
the
not
town
really
contract-
buildable for a lot.
Yeah, how did the town contract own
I have no idea. It's been in the town for a long time.
Probably foreclosure, right?
No, we didn't start that until probably 10, 15 years ago. We were like, okay, if you never pay your taxes.
No, the town's been foreclosing on land.
Say my-
That's how Jamie Minor got most of that land.
I say my property is foreclosed on it.
it? So any other comments on the letter? Any other additions or edits?
So just to be clear, we're trying to find out if there's land in the depot area, right?
Right.
Because I heard you talk about shoreline zone, so I'm curious if you can share. Is that possible land that someone came forward and talked with you? Is that like over that way?
No, it's actually off 22nd.
Midland.
Oh, so that way,
Yeah, Metropolitan in the stream and.
got you, down that way, okay.
Yeah, part of the problem is you have to keep within 5 miles of the fire station or your insurance rates go up. You count class 10. So that's part of the challenge is
Try
keeping,
to stay within the same
so
area
that's,
that.
that's why you
it's in
have
now.
that.
You can't go too far that way and you can't go too far that way.
Yeah.
You know, Morris Childs is really pushing it, because
He's
Morris
right,
Childs
yeah.
will put. Probably, they'll add an extra mile of 135 that won't be covered.
You probably could go 27 towards Augusta. Good part of the way towards the town line because of the any road or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
That at least gives you a cutoff to get across.
right, but what Dow effect is, Route 8 and 11. They'll get you, because it's a gamble, and it's really tough, and we've worked real hard trying to figure out where, because it does make a huge difference on the insurance. It's huge. Once you get over that 5 miles, it's just huge.
Matt,
Sorry, my wife is gonna really hate me for this, because I've been talking to her about this for years. But every time I bring it up, she said, don't get involved. And I keep thinking that the fire station is gonna be, I keep hearing like they've gone the spot, so I don't get involved. But here we are with the letter, so clearly it's not resolved, but I just don't understand why we haven't looked at the ball field, the space between the ball field and the library. Like, that's a huge chunk of land.
Oh, we have.
And okay. I guess, I'm sure you've looked at it, but given the struggles that we've gone on for years, how have we not figured out a way to make that work? Like, it just seems so clear to me.
I mean, they won't sell.
Yeah, it's not our land.
So that's one issue.
Yeah.
Big one.
I mean, we had a piece of land and the landowner put a lot of investment into engineering and this and that, and then his engineering firm kind of messed up, and it's in shoreline zone.
Okay,
so, so we didn't reach.
Oh, we tried a lot of places.
Yeah.
so do we need to vote on this, or are we just approving it, or what are we doing?
Or are we just making that one little change?
That one little
Yeah,
change,
just one
just
little
putting
change
it in the whole,
hope.
Yeah, so it was kind of hoping to have it.
and you've got got the docs. Yeah,
I don't think we need to vote
I don't
on
think
it.
we
It's
do.
just-
I know, I just trying to.
Okay, great. Moving on to new business. Do we want to move the appointments up?
And then just review town meeting.
Hmm?
You want to just do the review town meeting?
Do the town meeting. Yeah, but we want to move appointments. I guess we don't have any. There should be a lot of people who are waiting for appointments.
Yeah, shouldn't you do that? Moving forward.
Okay, so thoughts, issues, concerns about annual town meeting? Bruce,
So a few things I heard at town meeting. So one of the major things is people said it wasn't advertised well enough. It wasn't on the sign out here. People didn't see it in the paper. The other thing that people, and that's kind of, I think, but we kind of all did this on, kind of messed up is a lot of the articles, like the cemetery, I'll pick on the cemetery one, because that was what everybody talked to me about when we had the break, was the cemetery article, is if we'd have said in that article, adding a sexton to that, it didn't have that description in the article, that we went from, I think it was 18,000 the year before to whatever it was this year, yeah. And it didn't describe in there that we would hire a sexton. So that was kind of budget committee and the select board, we kind of, tried to combine everything, tried to shrink wordage in the annual report. Well, most people there, they'd rather see the annual reports a little bit bigger. They'd rather pay a few dollars more and have the stuff explained out a little better in the articles. The other thing that people were pretty upset.
Let me stop. Are you talking about the actual warrant or description?
The actual
Before,
warrant,
the
so,
warrant article itself
Right.
should be more descriptive. Okay.
so maybe what we should have done is had two separate articles for the cemetery, one, the normal budget, one, I don't know how we should have worded that, but somehow we should have probably explained that a little bit more so that people would have known. when
We
they
talked
was
about
reading
it.
The problem is, I don't think you can have some of these explanations in the warrant. That's why we had
Well, we can, because you've had it in years past on the warrants, but we had it in the warrant this year, but we decided to shrink it down. In a meeting, it was decided to be shrunk down, and we incorporated it all into one article, and we didn't explain what that extra dollar
We
amount.
decided not to ask specifically to authorize a sexton. We
Right,
decided, we
yeah,
decided to put it all into one
Right.
article.
Right. And the other thing on the annual report that people, were kind of, upset about is, we always had a death list of how,
Right.
of people that passed away in the town of Belgrade.
Mhm.
That was not good.
So may I speak to that?
Please, Mary.
Okay, so there is no legal requirement to have the death list, and after reviewing the other town reports, many of the town reports just list the number of people that are deceased. And also being a child of a mother who was sought out, because a lot of times when people read deceased list, the spouses are sought out, and there's, different problems going on because people have read that certain people are deceased. And the other thing is that we don't get the newspaper at the town office, so we don't get to see. All I would be able to print is what is on our Dave report for those people that passed away in the town of Belgrade. If they passed away someplace else, we're not going to see that, even if they were a resident. And one person comes to mind, which would be Ricky, and we never got anything for Ricky. I think we honored Ricky in the dedication of the town report to him, and noting that he had passed. But so I chose not to do that. If the select board would like to do that, then I can put that in. But I did review, there's no legal requirement, and it was to protect mostly those spouses that may be sought out because the other spouse was deceased through any kind of, illegal looking to go after them for money. So, my mother was one of those people who was sought out after it was printed that, my father was deceased. And, her bank account was compromised. So anyway, so if the select board would like to do that, then, I can add it back in, but I chose not to because I looked at the legal requirements and it's not a legal requirement. The number of deaths were printed in the town report.
That's one of those things, Mary, though, that if we normally do something and we're gonna remove it out of the annual report, then we should have had a conversation about it. So we can validate your reasons for not putting it in there.
Right.
But, and maybe we put a disclaimer in there that if folks have passed away outside of the town of Belgrade, then we won't have an official notification. So this list may not be complete.
Right. No, and I don't have any problem doing that if that's what the board would like me to do. So that's my explanation.
Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Then but we still recognized certain people, not just Ricky,
Right.
but several others. So
That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna recognize
Some.
people, you need to at least name the rest that you know of
Right.
or have been notified of.
Yeah, I think that input, this is not a complete list, because that then would cover you for.
Like I
some
said,
of it.
I heard that from like 7 different people
Mhm.
in the break we had.
And I heard it too. So, and, I provided the explanation and they agreed. They didn't want their parents sought out. So, but no, we can change it back for next year. Not a problem.
Dan?
Why don't we just,
Think of
if we know somebody that's passed away, why don't we just make an inquiry to the family And let them make the determination of whether
Say,
they
do you
want.
want to be listed in the,
You know, we're gonna have a-
How difficult would that be, Mary, to try to contact people who we know have died to see if contact their survivors to see if.
Right, so it would be difficult to be inclusive, only because we don't get the newspaper at the municipal office, so it's hard. We used to get the newspaper at the municipal office. And
Probably-
you'd be able to look at the municipal office. You know, I'm gonna fall into the same problem when I come to list the veterans, because not all the veterans, even though they're considered residents here for Memorial Day, they didn't all pass away here. So I'm gonna have to do searches to find, and then, you know, just from knowing people, finding out who was a veteran that passed, because we read everyone's name. So, you know, we can do our best job. We'll put a disclaimer at the bottom. But it would be difficult to be inclusive of everyone.
Okay. Well, we can all think about
A
it.
year now.
It's not something that we have to decide today. We can give it
yeah,
some
put
thought.
that on a town report list of
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's it. There was enough, but I figured it was something that should be brought to your attention.
And what about some good news? People were happy to have town meeting then?
Yes, people were happy to have town meeting, actually. There was a few people that would have been there, but they were sick. I do know that, so.
Well, I have a couple things. One, we have to do something about microphones.
Oh, God.
The only microphone that worked was Paul's, and his worked really well. So whatever the magic is for Paul's microphone, it's just the squealing and the squeaking and you can't hear. I mean, I had people say, you know, that was a concern. A concern I have is just in general. We had 200, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, 235 people total in the town of Belgrade out of 2,900 registered voters.
Correct.
That is obscene.
We
Yeah,
had,
those are the ones who voted, those are the ones who voted on Friday.
Yeah,
we
and we
had,
had 70 at the meeting.
Well, that was at the end. At the beginning of the meeting, I had a head count. It was 90, it was like 91 or 92.
Well, that's still pretty sad. You have 90 people passing $1,007,000.
we had 85 people check in for town meeting to vote. We took 63 votes on the LD1. So that many people left before the LD1 was voted on. And in all total, we had 100 absentees and 135 people come through the door on Friday. So we had 235. So the same people that voted secret ballot did not show up for town meeting, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know what we do about it. It's just,
I mean, somebody told me the town of Rome only had like 30 something at that.
Rome had 35 people to start with. At the end of the 3.5 hours, we moved down to 24.
So I mean, it's across the board and, you know, and it was, you know, I thought there was gonna be some draw to it, but it wasn't. And I don't think if you'd had it all secret ballot, it'd been much different. You'd had maybe the 235, which are saying is still not really a lot of people to.
not a lot of people making decisions.
Right.
But-
Actually, last year, we had about 400 people when it was secret ballot, the whole thing. We had about 100.
Can't.
I don't know how we do it, but it's just something to keep in our mind is, what do we do? How do we get more people involved and to vote? And I don't have the answer, but I've just found it appalling.
That's why I always preach that if people want to help govern their town, then they need to come out and show up to vote. They don't show up to vote, then they really don't have much to complain about when things
But
don't.
when they do complain, we can say, oh, by the way, did you vote?
Exactly.
Well, we could set up
Come talk to me next year after you voted next year.
yeah, Jensen.
No, we're ready to move on. I've got something I want to bring up. I already talked to Lorna. I'd like to start looking for a moderator for next year now.
Christian, I think was, so Christian wanted 1 year of watching.
Right,
another one.
and that would be great if he can do it, but I, the one we
Christian,
had wasn't,
Mary,
I heard a lot from people that didn't like the one we had.
Christian was being prepped for this coming year, for next year. So he is very interested in doing it. He feels comfortable. He stands in front of groups of 5,000 or more to give talks. So I think that he'll do a good job. He's been studying on it. I've sent him all the documents. We've looked for training for him. MMA has decided they're not doing a moderator training this year. So maybe next year, early in the year, I don't know. If they do, then we'll send him to it. But I think he'll do a good job.
I guess I'll have to talk to Rebecca Graham. She's always having in my committee from MMA testifying.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause,
about training.
you know, most of us are used to the whole article being read, dollar figures and all, not
Well, and even the way
abbreviations.
stuff was called was not
Yeah.
consistent.
I think it passed.
throughout The warrant, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know,
It was a little painful.
yeah,
And I think, he was trying to keep it light, but it's
Mhm.
business. It's getting through a warrant.
Mhm.
It's reading everything in the warrant. Because we really are supposed to vote on exactly as it's written. It was tricky. That was a tricky one.
I mean, we short notice, so.
one thing I think would be nice, would be to, at the very start of the meeting, to introduce the people who are sitting up front, because not everybody who's out there can see the name tags, and, this is, I mean, I thought we did pretty well for the first town meeting, in-person town meeting in 3 years. So, I thought that there was a lot that was good about it. But I think it would be good to introduce department heads and select board and budget committee, whoever's up at the front. And the department heads who may speak later, but at least that way they're already known. And the sound system now, if we do revamp the audio and visual system, that would presumably
should
take
help
take care of the poor sound system. And we'd have a better situation for next year.
Well, I asked Jason about the feedback. He says there's something down there at the community center. He says we need to invest in like a $300 piece of equipment. Because it's something in particular that's causing the feedback down there.
And he also said we have really cheap mics.
Yeah, so.
I didn't pay
Well, if we're looking at some of the ARPA money to upgrade that and to put some Zoom capability in, maybe that's a place where it needs to go. We'll probably end up with more meetings instead of less, knowing that something will come around again. Right.
Other than that, I thought the town meeting went well. But
Yeah.
I thought.
Went quicker than I
Mary-
thought.
Mary and the crew did a fabulous job both days.
Yeah, absolutely.
everything there that we needed.
The Girl Scouts had more sweets than
More food.
the entire town of Belgrade. Good things.
It was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
They probably made pretty good money too.
All right, any other comments? I'm sure this will not be the only time that we discuss. So moving on to appointments. Now, do we do the annual appointments individually, or do we do them all as a? Great. No.
So usually we do this group, like your annual appointments for the folks that work within the town.
All right.
We just redo the names and.
Okay. Okay. So we have annual appointments for various people. I'll read the list. But I'd like to open the item of appointments.
I'll make that motion that we open that item.
Second.
Thank you. I need a little coaching.
That's okay, I'm happy to coach. Okay, so now that item is open for discussion.
Okay, now we're open for discussion.
The annual appointments for the town of Belgrade are.
So the annual appointments for the town of Belgrade are, and these are all 1-year appointments. Addressing officer Hans Rasmussen, as assessing agent Arte Duplessis, Agent for IW, Mary Vogel. Agent for Motor Vehicles, Nicholas Poole. Civil Emergency Management Director, Edward Ketch Jr. Code Enforcement Officer, Hans Rasmussen. Harbor Master, Hans Rasmussen. Registrar, Charlene Poole. Town Clerk, Mary Vogel. Freedom of Information Officer, Mary Vogel. GA Administrator, Lorna D. Nichols. Public Information Officer, Jeremy Dameron. Plumbing Inspector, Hans Rasmussen. Road Commissioner, Jason Stevens. Tax Collector, Nicholas Poole. Tree Warden, Jason Stevens, and Treasurer, Nicholas Poole.
Make that motion.
Second,
All in favor? Any just further discussion? Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Okay. Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. 5 yeses on the annual appointments. So we have other applications. Doris Mathias is a reappointment to the Senior Resource Committee.
Make that motion.
Second,
And because this is a reappointment, Doris does not need to be here. So all in favor, Doris? Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
yes.
Mary? Mary. What are your names? Melanie?
Yes. And we need to,
Yes.
I just as a point of, if we need to be doing when these, it's a reappointment, circle if it's appointment, reappointment, and if it's a reappointment, how many years? Because otherwise, we should have 2 separate forms for appointment or reappointment, because we get fetched up on this every time.
And on her form, it says that this is a reappointment, please state the years you have served,
Right.
and she didn't fill that out, so I don't think that.
Exactly, so we're just gonna, when these applications come in, we've got to make sure that they're complete and clear, so.
Well, instead of sitting down and trying to circle one of them, why don't we just put a check box by each of them? That way there's a box. You can
Right.
check it off.
Right, is this
Yeah.
reappointment,
Right.
something clear, because I think we say this every time we get them, like,
Mhm.
is this a?
Well, and actually, we have here, if this is a reappointment, could say the number of years, those 2 should probably go together.
Together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's on our discussion on that one.
Okay,
So we can call it a
all
vote.
right, let's call a vote on Doris Mathias, who has already been on the committee and has been very much involved in the program. Dan?
I thought we just voted on that. We got as far as Mary.
Mary.
Melanie,
Not
yes.
Melanie, sorry.
Melanie.
Yes.
Bear with me.
Yes. Yes.
Barbara, yes.
okay.
All right. So Penny Morel. Not here, we'll go to the next time. Michael
Is she
Barrett,
not here?
She said she
wouldn't be able to make it very soon.
right, Penny said she wouldn't be able to. be here.
So do we have to postpone that? Is that?
Yeah. we
All right.
Just, yeah,
postpone that.
we'll talk about it until the next meeting if she's, when she's available.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
For Michael Barrett. Moved by Melanie.
Making the motion that we table Penny Morel's application for she can be present either in person or via Zoom.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Barbara, yes. Melanie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I move that we with the motion of Michael Barrett to be on the transfer station and recycling committee.
I'll second that.
We'll have it in the annual.
yes, he is.
Is Michael here? He was on.
He was on.
I believe. he
Over here.
is.
Oh,
Okay, great.
You are.
There you go. What makes you qualified?
Oh,
I love trash.
You and Oscar the Grouch.
You look good, Michael.
What's that?
I said, you're looking good. Looks like you're ready to get back on the committee.
Thank you.
Any questions for Michael?
Nope,
We appreciate your service. In favor of voting for Michael, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5 yeses for Michael Barrett. Thank you, Michael.
Did
Thank
we
you.
have
Thank
a,
you all.
did we have a motion on the second one, him? I don't have that.
Yes, Barbara moved it, I seconded
Okay.
it.
Got it, thank you.
Did we skip over Nathaniel?
No,
Is
he's next.
Nathaniel on?
No, but he's not.
We'll have to postpone him, yeah.
Oh, he's not here?
Is there anyone in our waiting room? Because that's the problem with this view is we can't see if folks are in the waiting room.
I have Corey, Gary, Mary, Nicholas, and Richard.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
All right, so I
I
make a motion that,
oh.
I'll make a motion that we table Nathaniel Bomer's application to the Public Works Ad Hoc Committee until he can be here either in person or via Zoom.
Second,
All in favor, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Barbara, yeah, Pete?
Yes.
Okay, 5 yeses for tabling Nathaniel Bomer. Next up, we have Anthony Wilson for the comprehensive plan review committee.
Didn't see that. So I'll make a motion to table that one.
Okay,
I will second that. Table.
okay, all in favor of tabling Anthony's application? Peter,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Robert, yes, 5 yeses to table.
Thanks. Gary around?
All right,
He is, Gary's on.
Gary's on?
yes,
Okay.
and move that we consider Gary Mahler. If we do both committees separately. I can do both.
Well, actually, while he's there, ask him if he wants to be on both of those, just to make sure.
Okay.
You there, Gary?
Is Gary Mahler there? Yes.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yes,
Yes.
now we can. We can see you. Hi, Gary.
Both committees, please.
Both committees.
committees.
Both
Okay.
committees.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Would you like to be a water district trustee too?
No,
All right, so I make a motion that we reappoint Gary Muller to the Budget Committee.
Second.
All in favor of appointing Gary to the budget committee? Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5 yeses for the budget committee for Gary Muller.
and I'd like to make.
Thank you,
motion-
Gary.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Gary Muller to the Ad Hoc Public Works Committee.
Second,
Okay, second by Carol. All in favor? Any discussion? Gary, would you like to
Tell us why you
tell
want
us,
to do
tell
it.
us why you're willing to do, not just one committee, but 2?
what would you like me to tell you? And I'm interested in the ad hoc committee for a lot of reasons. And I think I have some things to add to that committee. So that's kind of where I stand.
Well, we think you do too, so thank you very much for coming forward. So, took a vote on Gary for ad hoc public works. Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5 yes.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Gary.
Gary.
You're welcome.
All right. So. I'd like to make a motion to open the first responder memorial landscaping item. I'll take a motion. I can't make one?
No, then we'll just take a motion to open the next item.
Okay,
Somebody
I'll take a
seconds it.
motion. I need a script for next time.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second. Finally.
All right.
All right.
Now it's open for discussion.
So first responders memorial landscape. Matt,
Yeah, so it's in your books there. Basically, we have a proposal, committee received a proposal from Native Notions, local landscaper to do use local materials and native vegetation, to provide landscaping around the memorial and connect it to the existing walkways so that, you know, right now you can access it, you can sit on the memorial, but with the paved walkway, it'll be that much more welcoming. And inviting. And the proposal is within the budget, so we have enough money in our account for it. So we're just looking for to go ahead and review the select board. And then we'll move forward with seeing when that can happen. And hopefully we'll get it sometime May or June, and then we'll schedule a dedication ceremony. And complete this project.
It would be great if it could be done for Memorial Day. I don't know if you can pull that off, but. Is there be people at, you know, the memorial center that might come down just to look at it, that, you know, could tie them together.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
It's a question whether you can pull it off to get it that done that quickly. Yeah, no, I think it looks great.
So Mac, when you, sorry, can I talk?
Yeah, please do.
So Mac, when you say the committee has enough money, this is the capital reserve account?
Right, so we had all the donations in our existing account. We transferred that to the town of Belgrade, so there should be some line item in the Belgrade's money, wherever that is,
Yeah.
for first responders memorial. And there's over 7,000 in that account.
So, right, so it was the capital reserve account that was established for ongoing maintenance. and-
Right,
So
yes.
that's the account that we're
Yeah,
talking about.
yes.
Okay, so
Sorry.
I would like to approve an expenditure of $6,885 from the First Responders Memorial Capital Reserve Account for the purpose of landscaping around the memorial.
Second,
Any further discussion?
I just had a question. Max says the committee has approved the necessary fund, but this motion is to take it from the account that Melanie you just talked about.
right, and
Got
it's
it.
his committee that's
His
approved it.
We're just authorizing the
So they're
expenditure.
advisory, and then
We're approving.
we approve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing I would say is we should look at, and maybe the person who's interested in doing some gardening around town, the other side of the town office building is pretty sad looking. So if we have this beautiful piece here, we should work maybe with that person to see if we could do something on the other side so that it looks really nice and it doesn't take away from it.
I mentioned it to Corey today and he said that he had already planned to clean up the
Oh,
other
okay,
side as well.
good.
So I said, we're gonna have a really nice looking, pretty side and then the other side is. He
Yeah,
said, don't worry, I've already thought of that. So yeah, we will
Okay, good.
definitely make it.
You know, because hopefully that stuff isn't just gonna get removed, because those, you know, the plants that were there, they simply need to be taken care of. But nobody was taking care of them, so I
Right.
hate to see hydrangeas, everything just to get tossed, and then we purchase new.
Right.
It needs to be compost put down, it needs to be mulched, it needs to be maintained.
Yeah.
So that they can flourish there.
yeah,
Thing is, though, I don't know is mulching is gonna do much around there. One, because we got metal roofs on this building and the water coming off these roofs, I think it's just gonna push that mulch straight out of there again. So I think we're gonna have to figure out if we're gonna put
when they did a
landscape
stone,
material and crushed stone or.
Right, so it's permeable, but still.
if they're putting a crushed stone drip edge here, we probably should look the same so it'll match, but as long as it's just on the agenda for someone.
Lorna,
Yes, ma'am.
and I was just doing that wonkety wonk thing.
It's been doing it off and on. I'm like, I try not to breathe.
We should not be putting mulch around any of our buildings. If we want to do around the buildings, crushed stone and fabric, but mulch has no business around the building because there's nothing but rodent and ant attractants.
Okay, so we did
okay.
crushed stone. I was just thinking maintaining, and that's what I do for my gardens at home, is mulch. So,
And you wanna know a good trick to keep from having to weed it all the time under the stone? Don't use fabric either, by roll roofing,
What is that?
roll roofing,
Overall,
asphalt roofing.
Really?
You put that down and cut around, cut big enough holes so the water can get around the plants. But everywhere else, stuff will not come through it. If you put in landscaping fabric on a rock, it'll penetrate, it'll pierce it, and you'll have weeds.
Oh, that
So
crabgrass,
can
they
you
call
tell
it
us what you mean?
crabgrass.
Well, you can use shingles, but you can actually buy it in a roll. They used to use it years on sheds. You buy a roll, 3 foot wide roll roofing. Usually just about wide enough to go around the building. Put that down and stuff won't not grass around.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Great idea.
Well, Corey can have that on his to-do list.
Yeah.
The one thing I did notice on this, I like the design, I like the idea. Are they talking about possibly having a couple lights in front of it, ground level lights that point up so that it actually will light the monument? Because it might be nice to think about that while they're doing this groundwork, run a conduit out there or
at
something.
least a conduit.
Or solar. You can find some decent solar, right?
Yeah, if you don't, yeah, you can get some decent ones. Everything I've ever put up usually lasts.
Doesn't last.
Throw
Yeah,
away,
yeah.
put another one up.
And the only other thing that, we've got hydrangeas here, and hydrangeas usually want water. So there's not a lot of water there. So just that, Native Notion knows that.
This is the same.
I was gonna put hydrangeas someplace, and they went, you don't have enough water to put hydrangeas in. So I just add that as something, they're the specialists, but to check and make sure we've got enough water out there. But I think it looks great.
Any more discussion? Any further questions for Matt?
Second,
It was, so we just need to vote.
It
You
was,
moved, I
yeah,
seconded.
motion and second, just a vote, yeah.
All right. All in favor of first responders memorial as presented? The landscaping portion. Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Melvin?
yes.
James?
Yes.
Robert? What are your names? You find this. Thank you, Matt.
Okay,
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you, Matt.
hey, thank you. Thank you for your work on it too.
Yeah, great job.
Bruce was on it for me, well, he won't say it, but.
He's not allowed to tell Mary.
Yeah.
He's actually not. Had I known that, I would have stopped that into your spirit of America, and now you can't have multiple, so.
Okay,
All right. So a motion to open the Delta ambulance to this time.
so moved.
I'll second it.
So. If the budget passes the town meeting, which it did, when the contract for continued coverage for Delta, with Delta ambulance for the town of Belgrade needs to be approved and signed by the Board of Select Persons, contract and cover letter attached for your review.
I make a motion that the board signs the contract with Delta Ambulance for a 1-year contract at the amount of $15 per person.
Second.
Okay, Carol, second that?
Second,
I just got one question, the date of the contract, from what date to what date? Are we going January 1st to December 31st, or is it going from March to March?
Or did the Delta have a specific date that they wanted to?
Or just
I think it ends December 31st.
because that company Delta, you guys may want to discuss with Delta that our town meetings, our budget is March, so they may want to refigure the contract March to March.
So they actually say the fee shall be paid quarterly based on the town's fiscal year. So that would be
Fiscal
March to
year.
March.
No, that's good for you, January.
I'm just getting January.
January. So March.
Yeah, because we won't be able to get approval for the next contract until March.
Right.
That's right.
So the
Well,
town's
we're only
fiscal-
allowed to spend up to so much.
Up to the
Yeah.
Right, if we had to cover it, so.
so the town's fiscal year is the same as the calendar year?
Yeah.
That's gonna be.
No,
Except every.
No.
It's not the other thing.
We keep thinking
I
we
don't
want to
speak,
change
that's
it.
all right.
Schools, nothing. So we're the only ones that are.
This letter that we've got here that. Talks about, we feel it's important to share the recent legislative initiatives. don't get too excited over those. They had a blue ribbon commission that met last summer to make recommendations to retain EMS services and help fund EMS services. They came back with a $70 million per year for at least the next 5 years figure. I don't know if it'll make it through the budget process. This is actually going through our committee.
Oh, okay.
The problem we're having is all of us want to support EMS. But the Blue Ribbon Commission is in direct odds with the main EMS board, which is which is established by the legislature. They didn't really want a Blue Ribbon Commission. They wanted to handle this study last year, and they pushed through. So the Blue Ribbon Commission was formed. Now, one of them is coming up with recommendations for this amount of money to do this, and they want to spend it this way. The EMS board is saying, no, it shouldn't be done that way. So they're kind of at odds with each other.
Oh,
So, I don't know if this will end up that'll go through, so don't count on it.
so there is hope in the horizon, but maybe not a lot.
Yeah, well, something will happen, but this may
Yeah.
not.
Oh.
Are you ready for vote?
Do we know what we're gonna do
Oh,
for
do we need
dates?
to, do we need to vote on this? Because it's already been approved at town meeting. We just need to sign the
Yeah,
contract.
we just need to stay in the contract.
Yeah, we still have to approve the signing of the contract.
Okay. And move, hold on, ready to take a motion? I'll take a motion.
Yes, so I
Melanie,
made the motion,
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
seconded.
Carol seconded.
but we just need to figure out the dates. Because the parties have executed as of the date set forth below, but we need the end date. So are we doing, we're assuming we're doing March to March,
March.
so. And
Well, I think we're gonna have to hold off on it. If we can approve the signing of the contract. And have, you want to talk to. They'll find out if we can have the contract go March or March.
March to March.
Because it does, they count the pounds fiscal year, so
If it's fiscal year,
either way, we can sign it. We just gotta get the right dates.
yeah, it just says that it will be paid quarterly based on their town's fiscal year, so assuming that their first payment would not come due until after town meeting.
Okay.
Is how I read that.
Right, but the
I
first.
mean, all we gotta do is- all we gotta-
Would be due this week.
Yeah, all we gotta do is find out
get the dates.
when they want to start and end it. And so we have the right dates on the contract. I mean, I don't have a problem either way.
Right.
It'll work.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just normally when you have a contract come before you, it has the date on it. So
Right.
being blind is kind of hard. for us.
Yeah, so the town meeting next year would be March 16th. It's the third Saturday.
But you have a.
for simplicity, it'd be
Get
great to do
authority
it April
to
1st,
spend
April 1st.
Right.
Of the
Yeah.
That's why I
budget.
said, I don't have a heartburn either way, whichever way, just get the correct dates on. it.
Yeah, I'll check with them.
We can just,
I like her idea of just going April 1st to April 1st.
Yeah,
And then,
it would be
Yeah,
great.
that's
yeah,
a
that
good
would be
idea,
good, because
too.
your town meeting would be in, you could,
Yeah,
yeah,
agree.
April 1st to March 31st, yeah.
If they're willing to do that. I mean, they may have some towns that want January, they may have some towns that want, so I don't know if they're gonna want to have all these contracts with different dates on them.
Probably if they're getting their money, they'll be happy.
But they would still want us to pay for the January, February, March
Oh, yeah.
quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It just means they'd be chasing some contract dates.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, next January, if they want it January, you know, in December, they'll be coming up with their new figures. We'll have them, which actually, you know, as long as we got firm figures, you know, it's great to have them in January, because we know
Right,
we get the budget season. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to vote to authorize the contract and
and get the
I
correct,
actually, since it was proven with the town, I mean, even if we have the chair and want to sign it, once we get the date, I'm happy with that.
Okay. So all in favor of signing the contract?
What I said,
yeah. So you're voting yes?
yes.
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Peter?
Yes.
Robert, yes, 5 yeses. Good for the contract.
Okay.
right.
We get there.
Thanks, Sarah.
See you, Mac.
So now we have the warrants. we have to open the warrant, so we just. give them the money?
Just open the item, make a motion, we can warrants.
Second,
Make a motion to, I will make a motion.
Yes.
Open the warrants, discussion warrants.
A second.
No, it's, thank you. All right, so the first is the payroll warrant number 30. In an amount of $17,387.72.
Make that motion.
second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
Dan? Carol?
yes,
Melanie?
Yes.
Barbara? Okay, Liz. The warrant number 31 is for the BMV report in the amount of $6,985.48.
Make that motion.
second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Peter?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Carol?
yes,
Dan?
Yes,
Yes, 5 yeses. Warrant number 32 is the AP warrant in the amount of $71,035.36.
Make that motion.
second,
Open for discussion.
Belgrade Lakes Disc Golf. What's the rental?
I think they rented some equipment.
Yes, they rented equipment to do a program.
It's a pricey rental.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have just bought the stuff. Those little basket things are not that expensive, I wouldn't think. But maybe he was trying to gauge.
They could have rented discs and everything else too, so I don't know what they were doing, that's just that, that's where I was.
I know Dan had mentioned that he would like to actually set up a couple of things there so folks could play whatever they wanted. So maybe he
Oh,
was
I still think that empty land that we got over behind the transfer station could be used for something. If they want to set up a disc golf, what's over there? Great place for it.
85 acres sitting there.
How many?
I think it's 85 acres.
Oh, my Lord.
Park. I want a dog park in Forest Way.
That's a great idea.
You could have your walking trail we keep talking about.
Walking
Disc
trail.
golf.
Yeah.
Seriously.
We keep talking about doing something over there, but we never do.
Because we don't have any money.
Start by harvesting it, selectively harvesting it, there's timber that needs to go, so it's starting to die. And you take the monies from that, the proceeds from that to build your trails and other stuff.
There we go.
Yeah, I'd love to see something.
Just don't cut it very hard, so that's very selectively.
Yeah, you don't want a big blotch there.
No, you don't want to force her to come.
It's gonna become one of the items on the radar.
Yeah,
We
Right?
had it forced to do that when Greg Greg was town manager.
Wasn't David, was David Pepper who checked on it?
No, we had a license horse there for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was,
Two trees did it. We have it on file at the office.
2 trees. I forgot about them, actually. Yeah, we should maybe check it with the guy, one of the meetings and see what that.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the AP warrant?
I'm still going through real quick.
classified advertising, was that for the town meeting?
No,
Just-
that was for I believe that was probably the foreclosure.
Oh, the foreclosure.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
okay.
the 5 something.
Yeah,
Mona, is there anything in this list that you think could be reviewed more closely?
I've already had a couple of questions. One was fuel, that was Irving Oil, so that was actually gasoline, not heating fuel. And then a question on.
Do they have a
the-
tank up at the facility building? Or not?
This is people using an Irving credit
Oh, an
card.
Irving card.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And then the other one was the guest Wi-Fi. We are getting guest Wi-Fi set up here for folks who come in. Oftentimes, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, they'll want to pull up their insurance card on their phone when they're registering a vehicle, and they aren't able to do that, and they'll want Wi-Fi, but of course, we can't give them access to ours, so.
Seems like an awful lot of people get Wi-Fi.
It's a one-time setup.
One time.
Still seems like an
Yeah.
awful lot of money for.
Well, and who doesn't have data on their phone?
A lot of,
Well, the problem is the
yeah,
phones
we have
don't work.
quite a few people that come in that can't get that hotspot that, and so it becomes a problem because they actually want our Wi-Fi access and we won't give it to them. We also have people that come into meetings that have asked for our Wi-Fi access and, I don't think it's a very secure thing to hand it out. And so we discussed it, as a group and we felt we should get a guest Wi-Fi similar to what, the Center for All Seasons has.
That's the way to go.
Any question?
My questions were answered. So.
Seeing none? Call for a vote on AP warrant number 33. Oh, sorry, 32. Yeah. Good question.
I'm just looking up the last page here, I just make sure. Oh, you good. Yes.
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 Yes, I think so.
So the fuel escalator is anything over $4 a gallon?
Correct.
That is a lot of money, only $2.99.
Yes.
That's a lot of gallons.
They've done a lot of plowing in the last month.
You know, all the snow. Just be thankful,
We're supposed to get-
be thankful you weren't doing it in January,
This
when
weekend.
fuel was another $1 or so a gallon, or whatever.
It's up there.
My favorite was before we had that last storm. New England was the only place where diesel popped
Of
up,
course.
30 cents a gallon overnight. And I was like, that shouldn't even be legal.
Well, you know what amazes me? Because I drive all over the place. Almost a month ago. Come through Augusta and fuel and at the Irving here is what, 5.40 something, the Irving there. It was 4.13 in Unity.
Oh, right now,
And over towards Benton, it was a few cents higher.
right now, Richmond gas, regular gas is $2.99.
Yeah, so it winds me up. One area is so much more money.
Scotty lives in West Paris and fuels up over, I believe, in Bethel. And there's almost $1 difference for diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So towards Unity,
Yeah,
it's like all 40 difference or something like that. No, 30 difference.
Okay. Warrant 33. Move that we open warrant 33 in the amount of $1,141.51.
Make that motion, I'll second it.
That was a reprint. Why was it a
Yeah.
reprint?
Huh?
It says
This is reprint, it's because he didn't print an extra. So when you have to go back in and print it again,
It
it will,
tells you.
it automatically tells you that it was a reprint.
But what is it for? It just says.
It's ballot payroll.
Mary didn't want to wait
It was
until.
just ballot clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the description that it's ballot for?
it's on the warrant page that lists, it's on this page, no, that was different.
It was
Okay,
just
so
the
it
ballot
could be
clerk.
here for description, though. If this is our official warrant, we should have the description on it of what government is.
So saying it doesn't have it.
It doesn't have anything on it.
I'll make a note of that.
Well, somewhere down the road, somebody's gonna go through all this, what it's for, but if they do.
Right.
Okay, so because this, even though this is a reprint, we still have to approve it. We haven't approved this before.
Yeah, it's just a copy. Put a photocopy and you reprint it.
Now, where's the backup for it? So is it in there, the ballot clerks, like, does it list them out?
I didn't see it, to tell you the truth.
No, I think it's just the last page, they didn't give us the whole.
Right, because I gave Nick all the backup. So we submitted all the hourly wages. But he must have that in his folder.
Yeah, there's nothing else here.
I don't have a copy of what you have, so I don't know what you're looking
It's just the signature page, Mary. That's what Nick gave me. I can go in his office and pull that
at.
if
Right,
you want to look at it.
No, I just maybe would just tell them if we have a reprint on something, we do like to see what we're actually authorizing the payment for. Kind of a stickler like that.
so he didn't write ballot clerks on it?
No,
Nope, says
It
nothing.
just says a reprint, Mary.
Oh. So sorry, I never saw it.
no,
All right, so you made the motion, I seconded
You seconded
it, yep,
Yeah, all in favor? Peter?
Yes.
Tony?
yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
Barbara? Yes. This is for the 133. Make motion that we open warrant 34, payroll warrant in the amount of $19,196.57.
Second up.
Any discussion?
a lot of overtime that week.
So this is the overtime for voting day and for town meeting.
Yeah.
Any questions, discussion?
Just thank the staff who did all this work.
They did a great job.
Yeah, so,
Great job.
Yeah,
yep, I
Yeah.
agree.
had it set up and ready to go.
Mayor, if you could pass that on, nice work to all of you. I think I said it in an email, but I'll say it again in public.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, everybody pitched in. It was a great job, and I'm very appreciative to have so many experienced people working on the elections and at the counter. So anyway, thank you.
Well, and also to Dan, and I assume Corey was helping and getting it set up, that they get that passed along to them.
Good point.
Yeah, we don't want to forget Corey, because I know he's on, and he worked double duty getting everything set up, so. He
Hey,
did.
but I took down one of those signs. And my God, those things are huge and cumbersome. I had to drive down the road with my door open. Because
Oh
these
my
signs-
yeah, we looked down there while you were loading one.
Oh, my gosh.
Corey is lugging this thing down the side of the road. It's not like it was anywhere near it. So I was like, well, I'll be helpful. I'll go get the other one. I was like, how in the freak? I was like, okay, well, it's not gonna fall out, so I'm just gonna go slow with the door open and get it to them. I was like, that's all my good deeds for that day.
Okay, so did we vote on
No.
Article 33?
Not yet.
Not yet, thank you. All
Yes,
in favor of Article 33? Dan, yes. Carol?
Yeah,
Warrant 33.
33 or 34?
34.
ready for it.
34. Okay, 34 it is. 34, Dan, yes.
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah,
Melanie? Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Robert, yes. Everybody. One more, bear with me. Another reprint. Warrant 35, I move that we open warrant 35 in the amount of $8,854.56. Moved and seconded, any discussion? Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
I vote yes. We get 5 yeses. Town managers report.
The Public Works Ad Hoc Committee met March 16. Subcommittees reported in, and the group had a great discussion. It is the request of the committee to the Board of Select Persons that we put the winter maintenance RFP out again. I believe they want to make some changes, and then that would come to the board for consideration. The committee meets again March 30. RSU 18 budget, Superintendent Gartley will be present at your April 4 meeting to present the fiscal year 24 budget. PSAP update, Dan McKenzie will attend the, well, by now he did attend the Kennebec County PSAP coverage meeting, the 17th. He will get an update to me, which I will forward out to the board. MMA risk management, we met with James Toman, who is a loss control consultant with MMA risk management services. He toured the town office, maintenance garage, and transfer station. He will provide a report with recommendations to make our facilities safer, utilizing the motto, if it can be predicted, it can be prevented. A copy of his report will be forwarded out to the board once received. Proposed planning board ordinance. I met with George Seal and Peter Rushton to discuss a new planning board ordinance for the June referendum ballot. I have included this in your board packet for review and will add to the agenda for April, the timeline to include this and any other referendum questions for June is to review and approve all at your first or second meeting in April. Hold a public hearing by May 2. Absentee ballots will be ready May 17 and then voting June 13. Androscoggin Bank, we have secured a higher interest rate for our accounts with Androscoggin, increasing from just 1% to 3%, which will provide a higher return of earned interest for the town. That's really significant. That should put us right around $100,000 in earned interest, I think.
Good.
The water project design and Maine DOT is moving forward. They will also be drilling a new well on the Chafe property as soon as snow and mud conditions allow. They hope to get this completed before mid-April. Reconstruction of Route 27. The town sent a letter of support to Senators Collins and King for the Maine Department of Transportation's fiscal year 24 congressionally directed spending request to fund the reconstruction of Route 27 through Belgrade, Rome, and New Sharon. On the radar, the ARPA funds, American Rescue Funds projects, the water trustee appointments, Dalton rental agreements, comprehensive plan committee recommendations, LD 2003, and a possible broadband committee.
Is the Chase property the one across the street that's not included? Is that's not included in the water district? Oh, no, it's one of two?
I believe so, isn't it?
I thought it was the one on the depot or
There's a big property down there too.
I was gonna say,
So block 16.
isn't there one
There's
they're
one
trying
down
to
there that
figure
was
out
covered.
to do with?
Yeah, block 62 something,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah,
So if they can fix it, then we don't have to amend the water district and include it, isn't that?
I think
Am
that's
I
what-
right?
I think that's what they're looking at.
Yeah. Okay. When Superintendent Gartley comes, we'd asked him for some information. Can we get that before the meeting?
I have asked for that prior to your meeting, so I can get it out to you so that you have a chance to look at that, so you'll be able to have questions ready for him. He has not given me anything yet. He stopped at the office and provided the asbestos information that Melanie had requested. Specifically, but nothing else yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we haven't heard from him in another week, I would let him know we want that before. Before that meeting.
I'll start bothering him.
Did we get any, I didn't see anything on the asbestos removal.
Yeah, I scanned it and sent it to you. Pretty sure. I scanned it. I hope I sent it to you. I scanned it specifically.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it either. When was that?
Oh, I can't tell you an exact day.
Approximate day? Last week, week before?
It would have been early last week. So I may have scanned it and then
Oh, it's not here,
I
son.
didn't
forgot
see
to
it. I
send it
did
to you.
put- I don't see anything here.
Yeah, go perpetuity, go library. DOT.
I'm looking for asbestos and then.
I did too.
I'm not, I don't. see
I had
anything.
old stuff from 2019, but I didn't have.
I've got
anything here.
2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did scan it, so obviously I forgot to send it off. And so I'll make myself a note right now to do that. That's the only thing he brought. He brought it in a special little binder and I took it all apart and scanned it to send.
Did the risk management guy find anything he thought was appalling?
No,
Was he pretty
that's
good?
very minor, like we have some boxes stacked in the vault room that we should probably bring down some of the shelving units, items are up too high on the shelf in the storage room. He looks at that as if you're reaching to get something, it's too high, so somebody could fall. If you're using a step stool or step ladder,
Mhm.
keeping this walkway clear of ice out here in the event someone needed to escape out that door.
Mhm.
Simple
Little things, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I have a question about the comprehensive plan committee recommendations. And exactly what we mean by recommendations, because as I understand it, we need to spend a good deal of time in 2013 updating the comprehensive plan so that it can be approved by the voters in 2014.
2023 and 2024. What you meant?
Yeah, it was last time, sorry, 2013, I said, yeah, because I was just looking at the report, yeah, so we need to spend 2023 updating the report, so we need to enlarge that committee, activate the committee, and when it was done in 2013, they worked very closely with Katie, there was someone from Katie Cog who did 90% of the writing of that report. It hadn't been done for more than good bit more than 10 years, but there was a lot of update that had to be done. I'm not sure that there would be as much update this year.
We started that review in 2011. It took us nearly 2 years. And the reason it was approved was we waited till town meeting for 2014 because I was part of that whole process. But it was a 2-year project. But a lot of those goals have been accomplished. And I think right now that if you talk to the comprehensive plan committee, when 3 of the senior people got off, including myself, we reviewed a lot of the information and a lot of goals have been completed. So really, I think a good update to the current plan would, in a year's time, we should be able to bring it back. But yeah, it was a 2-year process. We expected it to take a year. It took us 2 years.
And right now that committee has just 3 people, right? Anthony would be number 4.
That is correct. Yep, that is correct.
So,
we had a steering committee, so we didn't just have that committee, we had a steering committee for which Kathy Wall headed up for 2 years. So every time each group met, there was also another meeting for the steering committee, and that's when KB Cog came. Chris Huck was the person who did the writing for us. Excellent. He did a fantastic job. But yeah, but a lot of the goals have been met. So I would encourage the board to take a look at the Town of Belgrade website where the goals have been marked out that have been achieved. And maybe, we just need to look at the goals that have not yet been achieved, and have we changed? Are those still our same goals for the town?
and do we need some new goals for the town? I mean,
Exactly.
looking forward,
Exactly, yeah, and I
right?
think
Obviously, fire department's gonna be one of them. I don't know if it was on the old one, but.
It was.
it
Dog
wasn't, yeah, it was in the old one. But another one of those things falls back to what Dan was saying tonight, was about the recreation department was to take control of the property over there at the transfer station. And they were supposed to put together a trail system, a bike trail system, a trail system for walking with identification of plants and trees and that kind of thing. So that's still one of the goals that has not yet been met. But anyway,
And there was also a goal of a swim area and swimming access in North Belgrade.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Okay.
So we,
As we're close to
okay,
which one do you? So hopefully moving before we open up executive session.
okay.
Can I just bring up one more thing I should have brought up during the town meeting thing? I think for very serious, we need to get signs put up at the Center for All Seasons on parking.
Yeah.
Because we lost at least 12 parking spots because a truck and
Oh,
2 trucks and a trailer were packed crossway, so, a lot of the older people end up parking on the side of the road, had to walk down, or they'd been room.
right. Yeah, someone told me that truck and trailer had been there like 3 or 4 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true, but.
I think it's
was
been
told.
there almost every weekend this winter.
Yeah. So they taking sleds out, is that what they're going out?
4 wheels of tracks and going
And
out
it-
on the lake.
And when I got there, there were 4 other vehicles in the parking lot with nobody in the building whatsoever. So it wasn't anybody for the town meeting. There were 4 vehicles down in the parking lot area next to the building. So it wasn't just the trailer and the trucks. It was also 4 more vehicles.
Yeah,
Well, Corey's intention, I think he said, was that he's gonna block that off for the next town meeting. If we have an event planned there, he's actually gonna put a barrier there so that you can't use that parking lot until we open it for town meeting or whatever function is there.
Yes, but I think what Mary's talking about, even the paved parking lot had 4 vehicles in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's, you said, well,
I think if we put signs up, this is for event parking or use of the Center for All Seasons parking. I don't know how you can do that.
If you block the driveway, the entrance, nobody can get in there.
Because,
Right.
Yeah, but you can't do that because if you have a Belgrade resident that wants to go down.
that wants to
there
go
and do
down there. I was
something,
gonna say, we should be blocking off our,
It is hard. We need to come up with a sign that basically says, it's for use for residents using this property or this grounds. All of it's maybe towed or whatever.
Right, at Homer's expense.
Right.
but don't we have to have a towing? Don't we have to have a certain kind of ordinance to be able to tow
We're
I know we
checking
went
once
through
in a
that
while,
with
and I don't remember what it was.
with Denny? And he said, if you're not gonna have a parking ordinance,
and
You
you
can't
have to have someone who can enforce the parking.
right,
That was it. That was the.
Right.
The problem.
yeah. Well, and you know, if we have Belgrade residents that are using that parking lot because they want to get out on the ice and enjoy the recreation, I have no problem with that, except when we're having an event. So maybe part of it is blocking, you know, we being aware of that and blocking it off earlier. But, you know,
I mean,
Well-
if they could have packed, was enough of a, enough of a shoulder. Per se, they could have packed on the shoulder and offloaded and left their, vehicle on the
Right.
shoulder instead of.
so that we just, we're more aware of it and manage it better. Because I hate to say to a Belgrade resident, well, we got this great big parking lot, but you can't use it and no one else is using it. I mean, that
Because we're
doesn't,
going to be using it.
that doesn't, well, but it, just to restrict them all the time from doing it, that it should be during events and how we figure that out, that,
But that was it, I kind of forgot that during the town meeting.
Yeah.
Well, let's put a sign up, this is parking with permission only.
Why can't we
All
take
of them.
those signs that we put up beside the road that say event parking that Melanie gratefully lugged back for me? And have another one made that says upcoming event, no parking for the next 24 hours or something like that. And put
Yeah,
it
that-
right in the center of the driveway, right by the road. So you can't miss it. And
Right.
we'll just make sure if we plan on using that parking lot for an event, we put it out there the day before.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea, Corey.
I'm full of them.
Okay.
Keep them coming.
All
Okay,
right.
so,
We should get paid for an hour to go down and do it, we're all set.
Yeah.
so how about a 5-minute break? Will we take a 5-minute break before we go into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Hope this is short.